Look at that, Maya whispered, aiming her flashlight at the water-damaged ceiling. Decades of neglect had transformed what was once pristine white plaster into a canvas of rust-colored stains and black mold. Did you hear that? Liam, busy adjusting his camera settings, shook his head. Just the wind. Old buildings talk, you know that. I wasn't so sure. The abandoned Westbrook Psychiatric Hospital had stood vacant for nearly 30 years. Its 5 sprawling buildings gradually surrendering to nature's reclamation. Unlike most of our previous urban exploration trips, there was something different about this place. A heaviness in the air that seemed to press against my skin. "Jamie, you good?" Maya asked, noticing my hesitation. "Yeah," I lied, forcing a smile. Just taking it all in. We were 3 episodes into our new urban exploration series. Maya handled research and navigation. Leo was our videographer and editor, and I narrated and served as the face of the channel. We'd gained modest popularity with our previous locations: an abandoned mall, a forgotten train station, and a derelict amusement park. But viewership had plateaued. We needed something with more edge. That's when Maya discovered Westbrook. According to the blueprints, there should be a central corridor just ahead that connects to the east wing, Maya said, studying her folded map by flashlight. That's where the intensive treatment center was located. Leo grinned, his face ghostly in the reflected light. "Perfect. That's where all the good stuff will be." We moved deeper into the building, documenting everything. The eerily intact nurses' station. Patient rooms with beds still bolted to the floor. A recreation area with board games scattered across water-warped tables. Everything carried the familiar aesthetics of abandonment. Dust, decay, and the peculiar sadness of places once full of human activity, now surrendered to silence. But unlike our previous explorations, I couldn't shake the feeling we weren't alone. Viewers, as you can see, we're now entering what was once the intensive treatment wing of Westbrook Psychiatric Hospital. I narrated for the camera as Leo captured my slow walk down the darkened corridor. This facility closed in 1992, following numerous allegations of patient mistreatment and several unexplained deaths. I paused for dramatic effect, letting my flashlight illuminate the peeling institutional green paint. What's interesting about this particular location is how quickly it was abandoned. According to our research, staff and patients were relocated with minimal warning, leaving many personal belongings and even medical records behind. Maya appeared from a doorway to my right. "Guys, you need to see this." The excitement in her voice was genuine. We followed her into what appeared to be a physician's office. Unlike the rest of the building, this room seemed eerily preserved. Filing cabinets lined the walls. A desk sat positioned before a large window, and bookshelves sagged with moldering medical texts. "Look at this," Maya said, carefully lifting a leather-bound journal from the desk. patient logs. They left everything. Leo immediately began filming as Maya gently opened the journal, its spine crackling with age. "This is incredible," I said, leaning closer. "These are actual patient records." "Listen to this entry," Maya said, her voice dropping as she read aloud. "Patient 247 continues to insist that something visits his room at night. Claims scratching sounds in the walls precede its arrival. Has become increasingly agitated and violent towards staff. Recommended increase in sedation and transfer to E-block for further evaluation." I felt a chill travel up my spine. "E-block? What's that?" Maya flicked through her research notes. "That's strange. There's no E-block listed on any of the official blueprints or documentation." Leo lowered his camera. "Maybe it was their code for solitary or something." "Maybe," Maya said, but she didn't sound convinced. She continued flipping through the journal, stopping occasionally to read particularly disturbing entries. Patient 112 discovered self-inflicted lacerations on forearms this morning. When questioned, patient insisted she needed to let them out. Patient claims to have been visited by former patient Catherine Walsh during the night. Note: patient Walsh died in the facility 3 months ago. As Maya read, I wandered toward the bookshelves, examining the aged spines of medical textbooks. Most dealt with conventional psychiatry, but a small section seemed dedicated to more obscure subjects: occult psychology, mass hysteria phenomena, and paranatural stimuli responses. One slim volume caught my attention. Unlike the others, it had no title on its spine. I carefully extracted it, surprised by its weight. The cover was blank except for a small symbol embossed at the bottom. A circle containing what appeared to be an inverted tree, or perhaps a neural network diagram. "What did you find?" Leo asked, noticing my interest and swinging the camera in my direction. "Not sure," I admitted, opening the book. The pages were filled with handwritten notes and diagrams, many in what appeared to be Latin, mixed with another language I didn't recognize. Interspersed throughout were architectural drawings that seemed to depict sections of the hospital, but with modifications or additions that didn't match the building we were in. "Guys," Maya called from the desk. "I think I found something about E-block." She held up what appeared to be a folded blueprint. "It's not on the main hospital plans because it's not connected to the main building. At least, not obviously." We gathered around as she carefully unfolded the yellowed paper on the desk. "According to this, there's a sublevel beneath the east wing that connects to a separate structure approximately 400 yards into the woods behind the hospital. That's E-block." Leo whistled. "A secret building in the woods? That's some serious horror movie shit right there." I should have suggested we leave. I should have recognized the warning signs, the unexplained sounds, the bizarre patient logs, the hidden facility. Any reasonable urban explorer would have documented what we'd found and moved on. But we weren't just explorers anymore. We were content creators, and E-Block promised the kind of content that could take our channel to the next level. We need to find it, I said, making a decision I would forever regret. How do we access the sublevel? The maintenance tunnels beneath Westbrook were surprisingly intact, their concrete walls still bearing faded directional markers and room designations. Our flashlights carved tunnels of visibility through the perfect darkness as we followed Maya's directions. According to the blueprint, there should be a security door about 50 meters ahead that leads to the E-Block connector tunnel, she said, her voice echoing slightly in the confined space. This place gives me the creeps, Leo muttered, his camera light sweeping across water-stained walls. Anyone else notice there's no graffiti down here? Urban explorers have obviously hit the main building, but no one's been down here. He was right. Unlike the upper floors, which bore the telltale tags and markings of previous visitors, the tunnels were untouched, except by time and moisture. Maybe they couldn't find the entrance, Maya suggested. We only found it because of those blueprints. Or maybe they found something that convinced them not to share the location, I said, immediately regretting my words when I saw Leo's expression. Not helping Jamie, he hissed. We continued in tense silence until Maya's flashlight illuminated what appeared to be a heavy metal door at the end of the corridor. Unlike the institutional doors upstairs, this one resembled a bank vault more than a hospital entrance. Thick steel with a serious-looking locking mechanism. That's imposing, I said, approaching cautiously. And unlocked, Maya observed, pointing to where the locking wheel had been partially rotated and secured with a bent metal rod to prevent it from closing completely. Someone wanted to make sure this door stayed open, or that they could get back through it, Leo added ominously. With some effort, we managed to rotate the wheel the rest of the way. The door swung open with a deep metallic groan that reverberated through the tunnels like the moan of some enormous creature. Beyond lay another tunnel, noticeably different from the maintenance corridors we'd been traversing. The new passage was narrower, its walls lined with tiles rather than bare concrete. The floor featured a center drainage channel, and overhead, thick bundles of cables and pipes ran the length of the ceiling. Most disturbing, however, were the restraint rings embedded in the walls at regular intervals. Heavy metal loops, clearly designed to secure chains or shackles. What the hell were they doing here? Leo whispered, filming the restraints. Nothing good, Maya replied, her voice tinged with unease. Her earlier excitement now tempered with visible unease. The records I found suggested Westbrook was involved in some experimental treatments in its final years, particularly in E-Block. What kind of experiments? I asked. Maya hesitated. The kind that would have violated every ethical standard in medicine. There were rumors of sleep deprivation studies, sensory manipulation, experimental pharmaceuticals. Some reports even suggested they were exploring parapsychological phenomena. Parapsychological? You mean like ESP and telekinesis? Leo scoffed. Seriously? The Cold War era saw a lot of fringe research, Maya defended. Both the US and Soviets invested in programs investigating psychic abilities. Most were disbanded by the late 80s due to lack of results, but some continued under private funding. I remembered the strange book I'd found upstairs with its diagrams and unfamiliar language. You think that's what was happening in E Block? Some kind of psychic research? I don't know, Maya admitted. But I'm starting to think there's a reason this place was abandoned so suddenly. We continued down the tiled corridor for what felt like an eternity, though in reality, it couldn't have been more than a few hundred yards. The air grew increasingly stale and cool, carrying a medicinal smell beneath the mustiness. Antiseptic, and something else I couldn't identify. Finally, the passage ended at another door. This one, more conventional, but featuring multiple locks and a small viewing window reinforced with wire mesh. A sign above read simply, E Block Access. Authorized personnel only. This door, too, was unlocked, though it required our combined strength to push it open against years of settled debris. Beyond lay what appeared to be a security checkpoint, a small room with a desk, monitoring equipment long dead, and another door on the far side. We made it, Maya said, though her voice carried none of the triumph I would have expected. Instead, she sounded almost resigned, as if reaching our destination was the fulfillment of something inevitable rather than an achievement. The room contained more abandoned documentation, security logs, signing sheets, and a large wall-mounted board with staff assignments. Leo filmed everything while Maya and I examined the papers, looking for anything that might explain E-Block's purpose. Check this out, I said, holding up a visitor log. The last date recorded here is March 17th, 1992, almost 2 months before the official closure of the hospital. After that, nothing. Same with these security logs, Maya confirmed. Daily entries just stop abruptly in mid-March. No explanation, no final notes. Leo, who had been examining the far door, called us over. Guys, this is different from the others. He was right. Unlike the previous doors, this one was modern. Heavy steel, with an electronic locking system and keypad. Most notably, someone had disabled the locking mechanism by cutting through the bolt with what must have been an industrial tool. The cut edges were rusted, but still visible. Someone really wanted to get in, Leo observed. Or out. The three of us exchanged glances, a silent question passing between us. Should we continue? I knew we should turn back. Everything about this felt wrong. The hidden facility, the abrupt cessation of records, the forced entry. But we'd come too far to leave without seeing what lay beyond. "Let's go," I said. "But we stay together. Any sign of trouble, we leave immediately." They nodded in agreement. And with Leo's camera rolling, we pushed through the final door into E Block. Nothing in our urban exploration experience had prepared us for what we found. E Block was not, as we had expected, a traditional psychiatric ward. Instead, we entered what appeared to be a research facility, a large central area surrounded by glass-walled observation rooms. In the center stood examination tables, complex monitoring equipment, and machinery I couldn't identify. The observation rooms contained single beds, each equipped with restraints. "This is," Maya trailed off, unable to find words. "Not a hospital," I finished for her. "At least not in any conventional sense." Leo panned his camera slowly around the space, capturing the institutional horror of it. What were they doing to people here? We moved through the central area, examining equipment and checking rooms. Most contained minimal furnishings, a bed, sometimes a desk. Occasionally, more specialized medical equipment. Each room was numbered rather than named, and small observation windows allowed viewing from the corridor. Patient rooms, but designed for observation, Maya noted, like human test chambers. In one room, the walls were covered with writing. Thousands of repetitions of the same phrase scrawled in what appeared to be pencil, crayon, even what might have been blood. They come through the walls. In another, someone had meticulously created a model of the facility, using what appeared to be chewed paper and some kind of adhesive. The model included areas we hadn't seen yet, including what appeared to be a circular chamber beneath the main floor. The third room we checked contained something more disturbing. Hundreds of small figurines, arranged in concentric circles around the bed. They appeared to be handmade from various materials. Twisted paper, pieces of cloth, even what looked like human hair, wrapped around small armatures of wire or wood. "These are recent," Leo said, zooming in on the figurines with his camera. "There's no dust on them." I felt my heart rate accelerate. That's impossible. This place has been abandoned for 30 years. Maybe other urban explorers made them? Maya suggested, but her tone conveyed her doubt. "All of them? There must be hundreds," Leo countered. "And why arrange them like this?" I was about to respond when a sound caught my attention. A soft, scratching noise coming from somewhere nearby. We froze, listening intently. After a moment, it came again. A rhythmic scratching, like fingernails dragging slowly across a hard surface. "What is that?" Maya whispered. "Probably just animals," I said, not believing it myself. This place has been abandoned a long time. Sound stopped, then started again, seemingly closer. We instinctively moved together, back to back, in the center of the room. "We should go," Leo urged, his camera still running, but now held at his side. I nodded. "Yeah, we've got enough footage." We carefully retraced our steps toward the entrance, moving quickly but quietly. The scratching sound followed, always just out of sight, moving within the walls around us. And we reached the central area again. I noticed something that stopped me cold. A trail of wet footprints crossing the floor that hadn't been there when we entered. "Guys," I whispered, pointing. The footprints led from one of the rooms we hadn't explored to a door on the far side of the central area. A door we hadn't noticed before. It was slightly ajar, a thin wedge of deeper darkness visible in the gap. Logic dictated that we leave immediately, but a combination of curiosity, professional commitment, and perhaps something else, something pulling at us, directed our flashlights toward that partially open door. "We need to see what's in there," I said, surprising myself. "Are you insane?" Leo hissed. "There's someone else here." "Exactly," Maya interjected. "If someone else found this place, they might need help. What if it's another explorer who's injured?" Leo looked unconvinced, but after a moment's hesitation, he raised his camera again. "Fine, but we look quickly, then we're gone." We approached the door cautiously, our flashlights illuminating a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The wet footprints continued down the steps, glistening in our light. "Going down," I narrated quietly for the camera, trying to maintain some semblance of professional detachment. "These stairs don't appear on any of the blueprints we studied." The staircase spiraled downward, the temperature dropping noticeably with each step. The walls here were different. Older-looking stonework, rather than institutional tile or concrete. It felt less like we were descending into a basement, and more like we were entering a much older structure that predated the hospital itself. After descending what must have been at least 3 stories, we emerged into a circular chamber approximately 40 feet in diameter. The stone walls were covered in elaborate carvings, symbols similar to those I'd seen in the book upstairs, but more extensive and intricate. In the center of the room stood a raised stone platform, upon which rested what appeared to be an operating table, surrounded by a complex arrangement of metal armatures and restraints. "What the hell is this place?" Leo whispered, his camera moving frantically to capture everything. Maya approached one of the walls, examining the carvings. These symbols, some of them look familiar, like something from old alchemical texts or grimoires. Grimoires? Like witchcraft? I asked, confused. More like ceremonial magic, she clarified. Systems of symbols used to influence or contact other realms of existence. The wet footprints led directly to the central platform, then simply ended. I approached cautiously, examining the strange table and its surrounding apparatus. Unlike the equipment upstairs, this didn't appear medical in nature. The restraints were positioned oddly, not designed to secure a person lying flat, but rather suspended somehow within the framework of metal arms. "Guys," Leo called from the other side of the chamber. "There's something here you need to see." We joined him at what appeared to be a recessed alcove in the wall. Inside, protected by a glass or plexiglass panel, was a journal similar to the one we'd found upstairs, open to a specific page. Leo directed his camera light through the glass, illuminating the handwritten text. "Final protocol assessment," Maya read aloud. "Subjects 12 through 26 failed to maintain stability during transition. Consciousness fragmentation occurred in all cases except subject 23, who maintained partial coherence for approximately 47 seconds before neural collapse. Recommend adjusting the harmonic stabilizers and increasing the biological anchoring. The entities continue to respond to the summoning, but cannot be contained by current methods. They are becoming aware of the weaknesses in our containment protocols." "What does that mean?" I asked, a deep unease settling in my stomach. "I think," Maya said slowly, "they were trying to contact something, or maybe bring something through." As if in response to her words, the scratching sound we'd heard earlier returned, louder now, coming from all around us, within the very walls of the chamber. The sound evolved, becoming more deliberate, more purposeful. No longer random scratching, but patterns, almost like communication. Then, abruptly, it stopped. In the sudden silence, I became aware of a new sound. Water dripping. Slow, rhythmic drops hitting stone. Except when I turned to locate the source, I saw no water. Instead, at the edge of our flashlight beams, I glimpsed movement. A darkness deeper than the surrounding shadows, shifting and flowing along the wall like liquid night. "Turn off your lights," Maya whispered urgently. Why would we?" Leo began. "Just do it," she hissed. Reluctantly, we extinguished our flashlights, plunging the chamber into absolute darkness. For a moment, I saw nothing. Then, as my eyes adjusted, I realized the darkness wasn't complete. Faint luminescence emanated from the carved symbols on the walls, a subtle blue-green glow that provided just enough light to make out basic shapes. And something else, darker patches against the dim illumination, moving slowly around the perimeter of the chamber. Not human shapes, not animal, but something fluid and wrong, like holes in reality itself. bending and distorting as they moved. "Don't move," Maya breathed, barely audible. "They respond to movement and direct light." "What are they?" I whispered back. "I don't know, but I think they're what the researchers were trying to contact." Leo, whose camera was still recording despite the lack of light, shifted slightly to adjust his position. The movement, small as it was, caught the attention of the nearest shadow. It paused, then changed direction, flowing toward us with horrible purpose. "Run," I said, fumbling to turn my flashlight back on. "Now!" We bolted for the staircase, flashlights carving wild arcs through the darkness. Behind us, the shadows surged forward, no longer constrained to the walls, but flowing across the floor in pursuit. The blue-green glow from the symbols intensified, pulsing in time with the scratching sounds that had returned, now loud enough to be almost deafening. We scrambled up the spiral staircase, the unnatural darkness pursuing us like a living tide. Leo, a few steps ahead, suddenly cried out as something caught his ankle. I turned to see a tendril of shadow wrapped around his leg, pulling him backward. Without thinking, I aimed my flashlight directly at the shadow. The beam passed through it, initially, having no effect. But when I adjusted the focus to its narrowest beam, the concentrated light seemed to cause the darkness to recoil. Leo broke free, and we continued our desperate ascent. We burst back into E Block, slamming the stairwell door behind us. For a moment, I thought we'd escaped, but then darkness began seeping through the small gap beneath the door. Not normal darkness, but the same fluid, living shadow we'd seen below. "The exit!" Maya shouted, already running toward the security checkpoint. We followed, racing through E Block toward the tunnel that would lead us back to the main hospital. Behind us, the shadows spread across the floor and walls, engulfing everything they touched. Equipment, furniture, even the observation room glass seemed to dissolve when the darkness passed over it. Not destroyed, but somehow consumed, absorbed into the advancing tide of nothingness. We reached the security checkpoint and pushed through into the tiled corridor beyond. The heavy door slowed the shadows momentarily, but soon they were seeping through this barrier as well. We sprinted down the long tunnel toward the maintenance door that would lead back to familiar territory. Leo, running slightly behind us, suddenly stumbled and fell. By the time Maya and I turned back, the shadows had reached him. He screamed as they flowed over his legs, not damaging them visibly, but causing him obvious agony. "Help me!" he cried, reaching toward us. I lunged forward, grabbing his outstretched hand. But as I pulled, I felt resistance, not physical opposition, but something more fundamental, as if the shadows were anchoring him to reality itself. Maya grabbed his other arm, and together we managed to drag him forward, away from the advancing darkness. When Leo was free, We continued our flight, now supporting him between us. He seemed disoriented, mumbling incoherently, his eyes unfocused. The camera, remarkably, was still clutched in his hand, recording everything. We finally reached the maintenance tunnel door, the heavy vault-like barrier that had first granted us access to this nightmare. With desperate strength, we pulled it open and tumbled through, then slammed it shut behind us. The locking wheel, which had been secured with a metal rod to keep it open, now became our salvation. We spun it closed, engaging the massive locking bolts. For a moment, we stood in the relative safety of the maintenance tunnel, gasping for breath. Then we heard it, the same scratching sound, now coming from the other side of the door. As we watched in horror, dark fluid began seeping through the seams around the heavy metal door, impossibly finding its way through what should have been an airtight seal. "It's coming through," Maya whispered. We didn't wait to see more. Supporting Leo between us, we staggered through the maintenance tunnels, found the access ladder, and climbed back to the main hospital level. Only when we reached the abandoned lobby, with moonlight streaming through broken windows, did we finally stop. Leo had fallen silent, staring vacantly ahead. His camera was still running, the small recording light blinking steadily in the darkness. "Leo," I touched his shoulder gently. "Are you okay?" He turned slowly to face me, his expression unnervingly blank. "They're still here," he said, his voice flat. "They followed us out." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, scanning the lobby nervously. "I don't see anything." "Not here," Leo said, raising his hand to his temple. "Here, they got inside. They find the cracks in your mind and seep through." Maya and I exchanged worried glances. "Let's get him to the car," she said. "He needs medical attention." We managed to get Leo outside and to our vehicle. The entire way, he kept mumbling about shadows and cracks and something waiting on the other side. By the time we reached the nearest hospital, he had fallen unconscious. The doctors diagnosed Leo with extreme psychological shock. They found no physical injuries, nothing to explain his condition. After 3 days in a catatonic state, he awoke with no memory of what had happened in E Block. The last thing he recalled was entering the main hospital building. Maya and I told the doctors it was a bad fall during our exploration, a head injury that must have caused temporary amnesia. We didn't mention E Block, the shadows, or the thing that had chased us through the tunnels. Who would believe us? When we finally reviewed the footage from Leo's camera, we found that everything after our descent into the circular chamber was corrupted. The video degraded into visual static, punctuated by brief, indecipherable images. The audio, however, remained partially intact, capturing our panicked flight and Leo's screams. We never released the Westbrook footage. Maya wiped all her research on the facility, and I locked away the strange book I'd taken from the physician's office. We told our viewers that technical difficulties had ruined the shoot, and we moved on to other locations, safer places with histories less hidden. Leo recovered physically, but quit urban exploration immediately. He moved across the country, changed his name, and cut contact with everyone from his previous life, including us. The last message I received from him read simply, "They find the cracks eventually. They always find a way through." Sometimes I wake in the night and think I hear scratching in my walls. Sometimes shadows in the corner of my room seem deeper than they should be, more substantial. And sometimes, in my dreams, I return to that circular chamber beneath E Block, where something ancient and patient waits behind a thinning barrier between worlds. I don't know what the researchers at Westbrook were trying to accomplish with their experiments. I don't know what they contacted or what followed us out. But I know this: some places are abandoned for a reason. Some doors are locked to protect what's outside, not what's within. If you're an urban explorer and you discover hidden rooms, sealed tunnels, or doors that seem too secure for their setting, consider that perhaps they were designed that way for your protection. Consider that some thresholds, once crossed, can never truly be sealed again. And if you ever find yourself in an abandoned building and hear scratching in the walls, turn on all your lights, find the quickest exit, and never look back. Because whatever's scratching wants to get through, and it only needs the smallest crack to begin.